If you're considering a career in software engineering, I recommend checking out Savio, a coding bootcamp and developer community that's trained veterans since 2013. In just 17 weeks of remote learning, you'll graduate ready to start a real high-paying job. Savio alumni are working at companies like Google, Amazon, and Microsoft. Savio can kickstart your career in tech today. Visit savio.la/military to learn how you can use your VA benefits to enroll. That's savio.la/military. Check the show notes for the link. And welcome to another episode of The Fast Take. I'm Rod Rodriguez.
Here with Jack Murphy.
And we are just coming out of our first our season premiere of this new season. And once again, the world or circumstances, fate, or the universe have decided that it's going to have some say on the show. And this time, instead of a war, instead of another country, aka Vladimir Putin, deciding to change the way that we're going to start our season, God, maybe, I don't know. Hurricane Ian decided to have a say in the episodes that we're going to release. So we had a really exciting episode, a really serious episode about, and we'll be coming to that, about Roe versus Wade versus our service members. But, you know, last year I made the move from DC to Tampa, and it's been a great experience here in Tampa, but I was not ready for hurricanes. I've lived in Arizona. I've lived in Texas. I've lived a little bit in the DC area, and hurricanes weren't exactly something that we were all that worried about. And I moved to Tampa, and suddenly hurricanes are a real thing. And if you listen to last week's episode, I kind of explained to you a little bit about Tampa's perspective. Tampa's not a place that gets hit by hurricanes. That's really a Miami thing. That's on the East Coast. We're over here on the Gulf of Mexico. Hurricanes, and unfortunately, or fortunately for Tampa, unfortunately for the rest of America, they have a tendency of shooting up to New Orleans and devastating those guys and hitting the Panhandle and, you know, hitting the coast, the Gulf Coast of Texas. Rarely do these things rip around and hit Tampa. So it was bad. It was really bad, man. It was really bad. People here were scared. I'll tell you, this is like that fear I was not prepared for. That was another part that I wasn't prepared for, really, was fear, like of this magnitude. Like, I didn't know how bad things were until I started looking around like, oh, people are really scared. And these are the same people that were like, don't worry. When I first moved to Tampa, so I work in another show called Softcast. It's the official podcast for SOCOM. And I'm not the host of that show. I'm really kind of like in the background, you know, to helping do audio production and video stuff. So when I got to SOCOM, one of the first questions I had was about, you know, hurricane and all this stuff, because they want to do personality accountability, right? So if you're a contractor, whatever, they want to make sure they know where you're at during natural disasters. And they were okay. So in the event of a hurricane, you have to know your evacuation zone. You have to know this, all that. So I asked one of these guys, I'm like, so how do I know when it's really bad? Like, what's the sign? And he says, if they evacuate MacDill, it's bad. If they start moving planes out of here, you know, it's really bad. I was like, oh, snap. All right. Note to self. So as Hurricane Ian starts coming up, you know, you get all these alerts like, hey, you know, or accountability, or where are you? Are you okay? And I'm getting all this stuff. And then I start hearing that, hey, I get this message. Everyone, MacDill is being evacuated. Everybody, we're shutting the base down. And I'm looking at my wife like, oh man, like the guy told me if this happened, this is bad. And then you start seeing all these planes leaving the base. I'm like, oh man, oh no.
It's like the harbingers where like the dog supposedly starts barking before the earthquake, but all the birds are flying off the MacDill.
It's true. It's 100% true. And to add to the ominousness, the weather does get weird. My dogs were acting weird. Uh, so it was definitely a strange experience. But um, last episode, we got to go down to Sarasota County, which is one of the counties that was hit hardest. My buddy Ryan Hauntz is an Air Force veteran. Him and I went down there and just provided relief to these people. And Jack, I'll tell you, and I said that in the episode, it was like a war zone. It was just complete devastation. Just people standing in the middle of wreckage, just a complete shock, complete shock. And when you're a reporter, when you're sitting there with, a microphone and some food, and I get to go home at the end of the day. I was, it was kind of the first time as an audio journalist, if you will, that I felt powerless. I wanted to do something, but there wasn't a whole lot that I could do.
Yeah, I can see that. Where I mean, I guess I can relate to that in a sense, and interviewing people in war zones overseas, that it's not always a good feeling that like you're standing on the wreckage, literally on the wreckage of the person's life. And sometimes it feels like you're stepping on top of graves, right? Like this is where people died, and you're there with putting a microphone in their face, like tell us your story. And yeah, like you said, you have a blue passport, you get to go home at the end of the day. Like you don't live in the war zone.
That's the part that really affected me. Was I wanted to do more. I'm trying. It's that separation from the story, right? You're talking to these people, you're asking them for their story. What happened? How are they feeling? Where are they going from here? You want to do something, but there's not a whole lot you can do. We were down there handing out food and water and traveling, or driving around handing out gas. And one of the things that really struck me was I live an hour and a half away from these people. I live an hour and a half from people who have no sewage, no food, no water, no electricity. Some of these folks, very lucky that, and I will say this about the emergency services in Sarasota County, they worked fast. Some of these people, I mean, as soon as this thing hit, there was the National Guard hitting the ground. They were handing out food and water. People were doing what they could, like some gas stations just opened themselves up, like, come get gas, get what you need. People were definitely taking care of people, but you'd be amazed, and I was amazed how fast these resources get spent. When we were driving around there, one of the things that I didn't really get a chance to describe was the smells. We drove through a couple of areas that we smelled the open sewage, dead animals, lots of dead animals. And then there's things that had burned. The smell of it sounds weird to say, but the smell of crumpled metal is that, I mean, there's these unique odors in the air of these disaster areas that you just don't encounter, except if you're in a war. And that's where, when I say this place looked like a war zone, it smelled like a war zone. Anybody that was in Iraq 2003, after we would hit these sites, and you go at the location right after it got hit, and you've got all sorts of just wreckage. That's what those scents, the smells, it kind of brought me back to that stuff. I wasn't having flashbacks, so let's not be that dramatic. But it definitely brought me back to some of those memories.
I can only imagine. I live in New York, so we don't have hurricanes really. We don't have earthquakes. We don't have tornadoes. We're pretty lucky. We just have stupid taxes, and we don't deal with the things that we don't deal with the things that people down in like Louisiana have had to deal with. People down in Florida, there's just natural disasters, and I can't imagine some of the stories you were telling me earlier, Rod. Like, guy just standing there, lost everything. The house is just wiped off the map.
So, I mean, no matter where you live, just be prepared, folks. And the last thing I want to say about this episode, for episode 1, was The show originally had a link to an Amazon account for people to donate to. And unfortunately, the person who was running that link just got overwhelmed. They just couldn't do it because it's not their job. Like, running relief effort is not easy. This is a job that takes a lot of your personal time and a lot of your money, your time, your effort, your energy. Ryan and I were just the messengers. We were just like the guys who drove down there and did it. But there was a lot of other people that were involved in getting that stuff squared away. When it comes to relief, when it comes to nonprofits, a lot of folks are like, well, why is the CEO taking $1 million? Why is this guy why are people making money off this? Guys, I'll tell you why they make money, why they get a paycheck, because trying to do good in the world at that scale is a full-time job. It's a full-time job. It's not something you can't run a relief effort on your part-time. It's almost impossible. So when people get paid salaries and stuff at nonprofits, it's because it's their full-time job and they're dedicating their entire day, their entire workday, just like you do your 40-hour a week. They're doing it towards this cause. And very few people are so independently well off and wealthy that they can make this a truly altruistic endeavor, where it's about the cause. That's not always true. Not only that, you got a lot of these like veteran organizations, right? You got veteran 501c3s. They hire CEOs to come out, run their program. And they're like, well, why are we paying that guy $1 million? Well, that guy probably has links and networks of people that bring in millions of dollars into the organization. That's the difference between hiring Rod to run your 501c3 and hiring the former CEO of Ford. I'll bring in a couple of $100 because I know some guys that have some money to spend, but I don't know oil tycoons and tech giants to bring in their couch spare change. I ain't got those connections, so I just kind of remember that when it comes to donating. But I'm asking people, whatever organization you care about. I don't care if it's the Red Cross, Red Crescent, Boy Scouts of America, if they got relief efforts. If you can donate to something here in Florida, do it. Find the organization you feel comfortable with. Just donate something, give it your best. All right. With that said, Jack, you are doing the next episode, my man. What do you have in store for us?
Next episode is an interview with David Maxwell. He is a retired Special Forces colonel who spent a lot of time in the Pacific, and he focuses on Korea, particularly North Korea. He continues his work with the Foundation for Defense of Democracies today, and it's a in-depth interview about the history of the Korean Peninsula and our relationship with North Korea from a strategic point of view, and what we can do to counteract North Korean aggression. There's a problem, I guess you could say, in that every couple of years, Korea gets spun up in the news as this big crisis. There's some new crisis that's happening over there. Everyone freaks out about it for a little while, and then it just goes away again, right? Until we do it all over again the next time. So I really thought it was worthwhile to spend some time actually kind of doing a deep dive on this issue from multiple different perspectives. And David Maxwell is just maybe the most qualified person to do that. So I hope you guys enjoy it.
I'm interested. North Korea is always a problem. It's been a problem. Like you said, it kind of comes up every year, doesn't it? Like, North Koreans are testing this new ballistic missile. We're all going to die. And then nothing. And then the North Koreans are testing this, or they're encroaching the border, and we're all on the precipice of a Korean conflict, and then nothing. I wonder sometimes if that attitude, this cycle of, oh, no, we're good. If that had anything to do with the way that we reacted to Russia's invasion of Ukraine, where it's like, oh, here we go again. We're going to do something. And you're just thinking like, that's not going to be nothing. No one's going to do anything. It's like Korea. It's like North Korea. It is what it is. And then they did.
Well, with North Korea, the intentions are a little bit different so far. I mean, it seems like they'd ratchet up the tensions so that they can get political concessions, or whatever it is they want at the moment, right? Like a lot of times they want rice, they want food because they go into these famines in the winter. Whatever it is they want at that moment, ratcheting up the political tensions gives them a higher bargaining position, because now, we're trying to, hey, let's talk you guys off back from the brink of thermonuclear war and get them back, something back to normal, I guess you could say. So it's an intentional strategy on the part of the North Koreans.
100%. I can't wait for this. So folks, we got this new season coming up. We've got a lot going on. The world has not taken a break. So we still got stories coming in from Ukraine. We've got, trying to understand Russia's next move. I think we can all agree that as we progress through that story, the reality of nuclear deterrent, nuclear policy is becoming ever more an important topic to discuss. And, that's something that I really appreciated from Jack's tweets about the issues that have arisen from discussing nuclear politics in regards to Russia, is that really what we're seeing perhaps is the effectiveness of nuclear deterrence, of nuclear politics, that we haven't gone as far down this potential rabbit hole than we've gone down so far. Albeit this is a very a very positive outlook from Jack Murphy, which is somewhat surprising. Jack, why is that?
Well, there's an argument to be made, and I don't think it's necessarily a popular argument, certainly not with the anti-proliferation people, but you could certainly argue that the presence of America and the United States, the presence of the United States and Russia, two countries that have both tactical and strategic nuclear weapons, actually has a stabilizing effect on the battlefield, be that in Syria or in Ukraine. That the presence of these great powers that have nuclear weapons is actually placing constraints on both sides, and it prevents it from blowing up into a much larger, let's say global war. That's what it would become, right? After the assassination of the Archduke Ferdinand, you saw these power plays being made in these maneuverings until global war broke out. But now with the presence of nuclear weapons, it places constraints on everyone. And despite all of the public messaging, whether it comes from Russia or America or NATO or whoever, none of us want a nuclear war. None of us want to press that big red button. And we all know that. Everybody knows, everyone concerned, even a crazy guy like Putin clearly knows that. He threatens nuclear weapons, but if he wanted to use them, he could. If he could have, he would have. Right. So if retaking Ukrainian territory by force, it clearly does not trigger the Russian nuclear threshold. They are not willing to go to nuclear or other WMDs. They're not willing to go to chemical weapons. Those are red lines that they're not willing to cross. So yeah, I would definitely make the argument that the presence of Russia and the United States, even if it's by proxy in Ukraine, actually has a limiting effect on how far and how large this war can become.
Well, folks, you can partake in more of Jack's outlook on the nuclear deterrent policy, and more stuff on Ukraine. You can also follow him on his brunch excursions all over New York. I don't know what is up with him and this new Autumn Man thing, but
Autumn Man is just returning from last year. He was in slumber from last winter to now, but now he's out. He's out and he's back. He's going for casual strolls through Central Park with women. Leaves changing color, falling from the trees.
Why did you say it like that with women? Like, okay, well, all right.
Well, it sounds
cool
kind of
for you. Well, folks,
it sounds, Autumn Man isn't depressing. It's not like I'm sitting there like sad Keanu on a park bench by myself. I don't want to like bring people down.
No, you are not bringing us down. You were taking us on. You're taking us all in your excursions through New York. Autumn Man is alive and well, folks. He is coming to a town perhaps near you. Otherwise, make sure you follow Jack Murphy on Twitter, Jack Murphy RGR. And as always, make sure you follow us at Stripes MM Pod. That's Military Matters, Stripes MM Pod. And if you have any stories, ideas, we'll take your criticisms. You can shoot us an email at militarymatters@stripes.com. And as always, feel free to like, listen, subscribe, and share all of our episodes, folks. We have an exciting new season for you. And make sure you go check out our first premiere episode, Hurricane Ian, standing up to Hurricane Ian. There's some amazing stories in there of survival. These folks are going through some serious. They're still going through it, folks. This isn't a story that just because we said, and we'll see you at the next episode. Story's over. These people rebuilt their homes and they're going on about their lives. These people lost freaking everything. So find an organization, find a charity that you feel comfortable sharing to. I'm not going to tell you where to put your money. I don't know. I just go down there and do what I can. So with that, I'm Rod Rodriguez. That was Jack Murphy. We will see you at episode 2 of our new season, and we're out.